Welcome back to the Lions 24/7 podcast. I'm Sean Fitz. Tyler's on new dad duty today. So we don't have him. We do have another guest coming in-house, as you can see, coming to your screen if you're on YouTube. Brian Dohn, 24/7 Sports national recruiting analyst. We always enjoy having him on here. I know you guys really enjoy having him on here. Dohn, let's get ready for another, as we like to call it, Dohnversation. Actually, nobody likes to call it that. That was running through my head today, and if I didn't say it, it was going to be a problem. But thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, there is nothing I enjoy more than coming off vacation and getting to spend some time talking to you. Now, the good thing is I also get to talk Penn State recruiting, so that offsets talking to you. But, I'm happy to be here in the morning.
That is the line that we walk every time that we pick up the phone and call one another. You did it about 5 times last week during your vacation, so we appreciate that. We're going to see plenty of you on the site this week as it is Michigan week. Even though it's a noon kick with Penn State and Michigan, still should be a fairly well-attended event for Penn State prospects. Right now, no official visitors. That could change, but you expect this one to be, the 2023s, the 2024s, the underclassmen, some of those guys that didn't make it to the first whiteout or helmet stripe out or whatever we're calling this these days, should be back this weekend. But we'll get into that a little bit later this week. Dohn, we're bringing you on to talk a little bit about 2022 Penn State commits. We did that last week with some early enrollees, but senior seasons are wrapping up. They're getting into playoffs. It's a very active time for these guys, and it's a time when we go back and we take a look at the ratings for these guys, where they fit amongst their peers. I know you're in the weekly conversations with the 24/7 Sports recruiting team talking about things, but some of these guys have really taken it to the next level this season.
Yeah, they have. And I mean, the two that jump out to you, or at least to me right away, is the quarterback Drew Allar and the running back Nicholas Singleton. And you would expect them to jump out based on where they're ranked and just kind of who they were as recruits and what they did as juniors. And then you turn around and you look and see what they did as seniors. And I think for me, the starting point's Drew Allar. And is that for a few reasons. First of all, the kid's putting up great numbers, had a great game over the weekend. But more than that, it's more about the growth that he has really shown as a junior and then coming into his senior year. And Fitz, you and I have spoken about it, I don't know, once or 7,000 times about the need, for that quarterback to come in there who can be that stud guy. And when you look at teams that across the country, whether it's Bama or Georgia or Ohio State, the discussion is often, and Clemson, we need to put them in there. The discussion is often about quarterback, and those programs often have, stud quarterbacks who turn out to be first-round draft picks. And listen, nobody knows how Drew Allar is going to do in college. It's projection. So I don't want to put that kind of pressure and say he's he's definitely going to do this. But, when Penn State got Christian Valu, he was the kind of quarterback that threw the ball down the field a lot more, took some chances. And he was a different kind of quarterback that, Kirk Shiraka kind of wanted. And now you look at Drew Allar and what he's done. And I know Christian Valu is still in the system and learning, but Drew Allar is kind of that elite level talent that you would expect a playoff contending team to get. Now, everything else has to fall into place when he gets to campus, as far as make sure the offensive line can protect, improve your running game, make sure you're still really good on defense. But to me, and I love Sean Clifford, and I love him and the way he plays and the way he runs that offense. I mean, if Sean Clifford's healthy throughout the process, I think, as we talked before, the rankings for the college football playoff may look a lot differently. I don't want to bring up the bad thoughts for Penn State in that regard, but I look at Drew Allar and I'm like, this kid can be that level quarterback. And then now it's the job of the staff to surround him with the talent. And I think they will, and also continue to develop that talent and develop him. But so for me, that's the starting point. And you look at what he's done senior year. He can get out on the move and throw. He can throw from in the pocket. He has the arm strength for tight windows. He has the confidence for tight windows. He can throw the short, intermediate, and long ball. He can pick up some yardage with his feet, although, listen, I don't want to see that a lot when he's at Penn State because you don't want him to get hit a lot, especially in a physical Big Ten. But he has so many attributes that you want. And look, a lot of the quarterbacks have them, but where some are at this level, his attributes are up here. That's about as high as I can go, right there out of screen. So that's what I look at. So when I'm looking at Drew Allar, that's my starting point for this class, for who's doing well as seniors, and for my lofty expectations of Penn State moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those playoff teams that weren't always, at the upper echelon of college football. You think of what Dabo did. He got Taj Boyd, and it took them to the next level. I mean, this
Yeah,
is kind of what you're looking at. This is what you're hoping for if you're Penn State. They have not recruited that position at that level or close to that level. So I'm looking at Drew Allar, and even Beau Pribula is a great. I think he's a very good prospect.
I do
But just
too.
that top level guy that can take you to another place
And
with
Fitz,
physical skills.
I was gonna say, and with that, the positions change so much. You see it in the NFL, and what you see in the NFL is a byproduct of what you see in college. College was running a lot more spread before the NFL was, and stuff like that. And I bring that up from the standpoint of, now, Fitz, I don't know, maybe you're old enough to. I remember this like nothing. Like when an NFL team drafted a quarterback, he sat for a couple years to learn the system. Now they come in as rookies ready to go. And a lot's the same with the high school stuff too. No longer is it, hey, this kid's got a red shirt. I mean, the elite guys are coming into play as true freshmen. And so that's what makes the Ohio State thing interesting with CJ Stroud, Kyle McCord, and Quinn Ewers all there. These guys are coming in and they want to play right away. And so for Drew Allar, listen, you never know how it's going to shake out in training camp, spring practice, whatever. I mean, he's going to be away from home for the first time, all that stuff. But he understands enough of defenses and how to get through progressions and do his, get through reads, throws a great ball, that the expectation level, at least for me, is he will come in and have a chance to start from day one for Penn State. And like I said, have a chance because there's so many variables that go with it. And I think that's bodes well for Penn State in 2023, right? 2022, you're learning everything. Imagine him once he's comfortable in everything in 23. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, a bunch of variables there. Does Clifford come back for that sixth year? Both
Right.
Beau Pribula and Drew Allar coming in January. I tell you what I love about these guys. Both of them not like lifelong quarterbacks, if that makes sense. I mean, you and I,
Yeah.
we get the notifications all the time when we get a 2029 quarterback that's going to follow us on Twitter or something like that, and we're just like, well, this is probably
Yeah.
the last time I'll ever hear this kid's name because they burn out, and that's the way that they go. They stop growing, and whatever happens.
I thought because you blocked them, but go ahead.
I don't block, I mute. It's very,
Okay.
very, it's come in very handy the last couple of Saturdays. But no, it's really a situation where these guys are raised and bred as quarterbacks. And sometimes those guys slip through and have successful careers, but most time they don't. And that's kind of what I love about both these guys is, Drew Allar, a year ago we never heard of the guy. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty unbelievable his rise, and I know COVID had a
Yeah.
lot to do with that, and his visibility and things like that, not having camps. But I like that. I like that he's got he's as good as he is right now. I still think he's got a ways to go.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think also with him, and you look at Prabula, who, listen, it's been said too many times already, but the best Penn State quarterback in the last 10 to 15 years was a kid everybody, including myself, thought should play safety in college. And Trace Mcsorley was, the first few times I scouted him back in the day, it was as a safety at 7-on-7s. And there is something for that mentality and that toughness that I do like. And to me, it kind of fits who Penn State is. I mean, Penn State for the speed and everything else. I mean, I grew up, Penn State was a blue collar football team, and that's kind of like how I want the quarterback mentality to be there. And just because you're wildly talented, like Drew Allar and Beau Pribula, who could probably start as a safety by year two if he wanted to at Penn State, that's kind of how I want my quarterback at Penn State. I want him to be a tough blue collar guy, and they can be wildly talented, but you can also be blue collar, like you, Fitz.
Just like me. Yeah. I mean, that's a funny thing because you look at Beau Pribula, who is as prolific as any quarterback in Pennsylvania in the last decade or so. I mean, there's been
Yeah.
some pretty good ones that have come through. But you sit there and you see Drew Allar, and what are you thinking if you're Beau Pribula, who's going seemingly on
Yeah.
another run into the state playoffs in the largest classification in state? I know a lot of in-state fans pull for the in-state guy. That's just kind of how it is, and that's not just a Penn State thing. That's everywhere. But he continues to get better. He continues to get more accurate. He's never going to have the arm that Drew Allar has, but arm strength sometimes can be a little bit overinflated. And how many times do you need to throw the ball 70 yards in the air? That's the thing. So what are you looking at with Beau Pribula here as a senior? Just putting up crazy numbers as usual. They got a win over Anthony Ivy in the first round of playoffs this past weekend. I mean, the kid's really good.
He is, and I think one thing that people have to realize is, and I go back to the Ohio State thing with the 3 quarterbacks they have there. Beau Pribula is not sitting there going, geez, I wonder what I should do. I have no chance to beat out Drew Allar. This is terrible. Geez, what should... No, Beau Pribula is like, hey, I'm going to go there and win the job myself. So, and yeah, you keep an eye on him. And the reason I speak about Allar a little bit more, or a lot more, is because of the arm strength and the size and all that other stuff. But Beau Pribula was a pretty highly recruited kid in his own right. And I think, where he's from, where he lives, kind of made sense for him. He was always going to go to Penn State, and he's fine with that. And if I look in that quarterback room, you're always one play away from playing. And whether I'm Drew Allar or Beau Pribula, I'm looking in that quarterback room and going, listen, if I don't win the job as a true freshman, I still have a really good chance to play quickly because, we know what's in the quarterback room.
Yes.
And so, he's putting up great numbers. He's playing in an offense that is really friendly to the quarterback, likes to throw it. He's, Coach Janchuk is a guy who has been other places and had a lot of success in high school football. And yeah, he may not have the arm strength that Drew Allar has. And Fitz, you and I stood at Elite 11 and watched Beau throw a lot one day back in the spring. But there's a lot of other things that come into it. And I do feel like he's got really good leadership skills. And he is a guy that you can also put in a few packages for if you want to throw some wrinkles in there. I'm never a big fan of that because when you have more than one quarterback, you usually have none. But I could also see where they could use him in a couple different ways. And if it doesn't work out, like I said, man, that kid could play safety at a really high level. There's a lot to like with him. It's just that you're dazzled by Drew Allar, but it doesn't mean that Beau Pribula is not a good quarterback.
That's fair. And what I like about Pribula, and you mentioned that Elite 11, we went to that thing and we came out thinking, is anybody here even, a 4-star or close to 4-star status? There were a lot of guys there that ended up at, big Power 5 programs. The thing that was different from Beau Pribula about Steve Angeli going to Notre Dame, Braden Davis going to South Carolina, those guys didn't throw the ball great anyway. But
I was going to say Donovan Leary going to Illinois.
Donovan Leary, which we continue to the Leary brothers, I think we just continue to underestimate those guys because they're doing really well. Like you look at what Beau Pribula is able to do from an athletic standpoint, and Braden Davis doesn't have that, and Steve Angeli doesn't have that. So you've got that in the back of your mind. You've got Trace Mcsorley in the back of your mind. You remember Trace Mcsorley came into a class with Michael O'Connor, a 6'4.5", pro style statue guy.
That was like one of the first Canadians for Penn State during this run, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he was here for about a year, and Trace Mcsorley in a couple of weeks, within a couple of weeks of practice, had really established himself as the number 2 guy behind Hackenberg and just ran with it. You could see something like that for Beau Pribula just because of the way that he plays the game.
Well, and you and I had spoken about it a lot, and I'm pretty honest about the Elite 11 thing, and it's great. You can see kids throw, but the reason I do not go crazy over Elite 11 stuff is 2 reasons. You get a guy like Beau Pribula who it only showcases part of his game. What makes him so effective is his ability to create when a play breaks down, or his ability to run or extend plays. You do not get that at Elite 11. The other thing is, and I don't know how else to put it, there are quarterbacks who spend their training sessions all off season doing all the Elite 11 drills. So when they get to the Elite 11, they've been doing these drills for 2 years, whereas somebody like Beau Pribula isn't. right? So he doesn't sit there and go, okay, training session today, this is what they're going to work on at 11. This is what I need to do. He just goes out and does his normal work. And so I try not to put too much stock in that stuff, but I also understand it can show off some accuracy, footwork, arm strength, all that other stuff. But to me, the end all be all is what a kid does on Friday nights or Saturdays or whenever they play with the pads on. And going back to what you said, when you look at what he can do athletically from a leadership standpoint, look, you don't put up great numbers like that with your offense unless you have really good leadership skills and that offense trusts you and that coach trusts you. And he performs at a really high level. And I think what last year they made it to the state championship game, where is incredible for them. And I think when you're talking about the top classification, it's always going to be a tough matchup when they get to that level. But he's the one who took them there. And so, yeah, if you told me in 2 years that Beau Pribula was the starting quarterback, my first reaction would be like, man, did Drew Allar get hurt? But my second reaction would be like, yeah, I'm sure Penn State's in good hands because he's a good quarterback.
Yep. And we have him as a high 3-star in 24/7 Sports. I happen to agree with that. We've seen that the physical capabilities are a bit limited, but still he's a really good football player. He's been productive, and he got into that offense as you talked about. He was running the ball a bunch as a sophomore, and then they changed that offense, and he was able to get a little bit more accurate and throw the ball around.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you got to remember, high 3 stars are still really good players.
Really good. Yeah.
People are like,
Low
oh, he's only a 3-star.
Low 3 stars are still really good. I mean,
if you're going to play Division I football, you're really good, or you're really big and somebody's taking a chance on you. So it's all relative. But yeah, I mean, a high 3-star kid is a kid that, personally, what I'm ranking is like, look, if this kid made his way to the NFL, I would not be surprised. If you're ranked where Beau is.
We tend to forget these things because we cover high level Power 5 prospects, and you see how big these guys are. I put my high school team on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking, oh my, this kid is a 190-pound offensive lineman. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at here. So you just forget these things. You forget these things when you cover so many good prospects.
I have to tell you, so back in the day when I covered UCLA, I went up to Washington State for, they played at Washington State. And so Friday night, you're up there, you're in Pullman, Washington. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to go watch Pullman High School play. I've never seen it before. I don't think I'll ever see it again. The starting safety was 6'1", 185 pounds. That's what he was listening to the program. 6'1", 185 starting safety. He was the free safety, not the strong in the box guy. Yeah, he was also their starting center.
That's amazing. I'm sure the 6'1", 185 checked out as well, as it usually does on those programs. Moving along, staying in Pennsylvania, though, one guy that we talked about when he committed, we were wondering how good he was as a running back. Nicholas Singleton. Now he's 24/7 Sports top running back in the country.
I don't wonder that anymore.
He's done some nice things, and I've kind of eaten some crow on that one. I thought he should have been ranked lower. I don't value running backs as much as some other people do, but at the same time, he's number 55 in the composite. He's in 5-star territory in 24/7 Sports. So he's really, really taken it to another level this year. And some of the things are very noticeable on film. Some of the things are nuanced, but as a running back, they're not getting much better than Nick Singleton in the high school ranks these days.
No, and a couple of things of what you mentioned. He's right in that range for 5-star. I expect him to finish the cycle as a 5-star. If you look at 24/7, what we do is the top 32 are 5-stars, right? Signifying the NFL draft. So
by the way, our readers, listeners, not going to hold you to that at all. Now that you've said that, by the way, good job. He
does also help Penn State beat Ohio State, so we have that too.
Wow. You're just filling out the bingo card here, aren't you?
So the way I look at running backs is a lot like you. You can go all over the country and find really good running backs. There's one or two a cycle. Last year was Travion Henderson, who's at Ohio State now.
Right.
This year it's Nicholas Singleton, who seem to separate themselves from everybody else. And so when you look at the analytics of everything, and it's still ridiculous where the Giants took Saquon Barkley just in terms of evaluation pick. He's first-round pick, number 2. Okay. So there's going to be a running back who will go mid to late first round in the draft, somewhere between 15, 18 to 30, 32. And I think Nicholas Singleton falls into that range, which is why we rate him where he is. Now, he's also one of those guys that is so special from what you see on film. And you got to remember, Fitz, this is a kid. Remember when he got invited to the opening as like a freshman and his testing numbers were just ungodly. And I remember calling him, and, it'd be a lot like trying to interview my 13-year-old right now. He really didn't have much to say and didn't understand what was going on. So it's fun to see how far he's come from a comfort level and doing interviews and talking and just being out there in the public more. But he is a difference maker. And I had heard from a lot of coaches across the country about, they wanted to know where he was going to go because they didn't want to have to face him. So that tells you right there about how good he is. And he, there's very few running backs that can turn -2 into +7. And I think he can do that. And I think when you go back and you look at the running game of what Barkley did at Penn State when he was so good, I think it's really a good running back really can overcome some shortcomings of an offensive line. I think that's the best way I can put it. And I think Nicholas Singleton's that guy. And then once he gets moving, I imagine it would be a lot like watching you and I try to tackle him in space at our current ages. And my first thought process would be like a lot of the high school defensive backs is like, just run past me. I'm okay with that. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to tackle him at 37. I definitely wouldn't have tackled him at 17. So, but yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you look at what Penn State has right now, and we thought they had good running backs, and there's nothing there right now. And you mentioned, you can overcome some shortcomings. I'm sure that's going to pop back up because Penn State's offensive line and the run game has been atrocious this year. But he's a guy that can help you now. I mean, he's a guy, and this is the dumb thing where you say he can, he could come in and play for you this week, and why can't you enroll this week? But at the same time, he's physically talented enough and strong enough that he could come in right away and seemingly crack that rotation.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the things you look at is, is he going to have to add body mass to really absorb the pounding of the Big Ten? And no, it's there. I mean, he is as put together as they come, and he gained all that size and mass and didn't lose speed. He got faster. He got more agile. And he's a kid that I think is going to be very difficult to arm tackle in the Big Ten. I think he's a kid that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He has a willingness to pick up blitzes already, so it's not like he's some prima donna. I mean, he's a hardworking kid from a good family who wants to be close to home and play at Penn State, and he fits into everything you want your running back to be at Penn in a physical Big Ten, conference where you look at you go back and you look at Wisconsin or Michigan or even Ohio State, right? And I get that some of these teams, especially Ohio State, will spread you out. When you go back to the Urban Meyer days, they are at core a run between the tackles, physical offense. And that's what you have to be. And then Singleton also has the speed and agility to bounce plays outside and to get the edge. So why do we go on about a running back position where you can really devalue it because there's a lot of them there and the pounding? Because at the college level, he can be that good and that special. Like Saquon Barkley probably won a couple games for him just with his, the one at Iowa comes to mind where he was unbelievable in that game. And I think Singleton has a chance to be a guy that can take a game where Penn State may not be playing the best, and at the end of it, say, if they don't have Singleton, I don't know if they win that game.
Yeah, you look at what they have right now at running back, and there's some guys that can plod and get some yards, but you don't have Journey Brown to take it 80 yards. You don't have Saquon Barkley. Miles Sanders was not a breakaway back, but he had the speed to do it. You're just looking across and you don't see that right now, and that's really, I think, Singleton as a guy that, as a program that hasn't played out and out freshman running backs to get him 20 carries or anything like that. Even Saquon had to assimilate to getting in there.
Right.
You could still throw him in there a couple times a game and get his feet wet and get going.
Well, and I also think, like, I know the breakaway runs are big and everybody likes the 70-yarders, but to me, the great running back makes a 2-yard gain a 7-yard gain, right? Because all of a sudden, instead of being 2nd and 8, you're in 2nd and 3, and boy, that changes the playbook and it changes your ability for play action. It just does so much, and or the -2 becomes +2. So instead of 2nd and 12, you're at 2nd and 8, and I think for me, that has more value than just a flat out home run hitter, because when you have that ability, you then have the home run ability. It makes it a little, I don't want to say easier, but you have a chance to break the bigger runs even more. And then Singleton does have that extra gear to just finish the run. You go back and you watch some of these running backs where, even Saquon, forget the 40 or 50-yard runs or whatever. Go back and look at the times where it should have been a 1-yard gain and it turned into an 8-yard gain, and just what that does to a defense and how it wears on you and the confidence it gives to an offense and all the different options. And we have, Travion Henderson's like that with Ohio State. He should, we expect him to get to that level. And that's the level that we expect Singleton to get to when you start talking about where he's ranked.
Yeah, and I know you're a big Katron Allen fan too at running back. So
I do like Katron Allen a lot. I mean, imagine you got to tackle Nicholas Singleton, 18 times a game running the ball, and then, okay, listen, it's late third quarter. Let's just go give it to our 230-pound Katron Allen, and hey, guys, here's your break from Singleton. Go tackle this guy.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. You've seen some other Penn State commits this fall, maybe moving a little bit down the commit list, and no disrespect when I say that, but guys that are a little bit lower ranked. A guy that jumps out to me in this class, and I keep seeing him pop up over and over again, is KJ Winston at DeMatha. You saw him very early in the season.
Yeah.
We've said this guy is a prime sleeper in the class, but he's now a 4-star by 24/7 Sports. So I don't know if he still has the sleeper category or not. But this is a guy. You look at what they've done at safety; it's been down, and then this year it's been excellent with Jaquan Brisker and Jair Brown in there. And it seems like they may be turning the corner under Anthony Poindexter. I think this is a kid probably not going to play next year, but he gives you that athleticism, he gives you that size and that range back there. I think he's a tremendous prospect.
Yeah, I think he's outstanding too. And you look at, you mentioned Brisker, who, I mean, Fitz, I'm sure you remember whom was in high school out in Western PA and how good he was. Mm-hmm. It's just he had to take care of some great things. But I look at KJ Winston as a kid who you'd like him to redshirt, because I want every freshman to redshirt, to be honest with you, just so they can, get acclimated. But if they have some depth issues, he's a smart kid. He's athletic. He's rangy. He runs well. He's not afraid to go in and hit you. That if you were playing, Northwest, A&M, Tech, I wouldn't mind if he played a little bit and got some experience in games like that. But I also think he's very similar body type to Brisker, and just in terms of the length and his ability to drive on the ball. And he's at DeMatha. They didn't play much in the spring. It was really easy for him to get lost in the recruiting shuffle. And I think Penn State did an awesome job of evaluating him off of very limited stuff in the spring. But I think a kid like him is really hurt by the fact of he couldn't go to camps. He couldn't get measured. The one camp he did go to, when I say camps, I mean team camps after his sophomore year, the camp that he does go to, he's running into, gusts of wind in the 40. And so his time wasn't what you want it to be. But yeah, he got the Penn State offer, and I don't mean it to be like that he didn't get all the offers he wanted to, but this is a kid at DeMatha, at that program, you would have thought would be a 30-plus offer kid if everything was how it used to be. And when I saw him live, his size checked out, and just the speed at which he played. And I went to the first game of the season, or maybe it was the second game for them. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But I think he had like 14 tackles in the game. You know how hard it is for a safety in high school football to have that many tackles? And he was all over the place, and his ball skills were tremendous. Like you say, he'll probably redshirt. And I don't know Penn State's safety depth. Obviously, you have it. You're much better at that stuff, obviously, than I am.
I would hope so. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if he played as a true freshman, I'd be like, yeah, I could see that, because physically, I think he could do it. The mental aspect of picking up the coverages and not blown coverages and the need to play him are different things. But yeah, I mean, he's everybody always asks on the board, well, who's underranked? Well, I mean, since I'm involved with the rankings, it would be kind of crappy of me to say somebody's underranked. I would just push for him to get ranked higher.
Right.
But if we're talking about kids that don't get enough run, maybe on a message board or fans talking about him in the class, he's pretty high up there for me with Penn State.
We're going to play What Is He Now with a couple of Penn State commits. You're looking at some athletes, some guys that could project all over the place. We'll start in state. Mekhi Flowers, what is he?
Safety.
All right. I can see that. Yeah. No, he moved up in classification. Yep. Go ahead.
And the reason I say safety is, you look at his body type and he can hit, he can run. But, I look at some of the other Penn State receivers and I think, he's got to work on his ball skills. And if he can do that, I'm not saying he can't play receiver, but listen, I grew up watching the New York Giants play football when they were bad, when they were good, and now they're bad again. And so I'm really big into defense and, I'll always look defense first for kids. And so for me, I just love a lot of the attributes he could bring to that position.
Yeah. Ken Talley, what is he?
I think he's a defensive end and maybe a kid that you bulk up and move him inside if his frame can handle it. He's a thick kid in the lower body, really big legs, strong at the point of attack when I watch him play. And I've seen him play for Philadelphia Northeast. I know there's some talk of can he play linebacker? I don't see it. I think he's a guy that, in a traditional defense, is a strong side kind of guy. And if you can put more size on him, if his frame can withstand it, he's a kid that can move inside. And you'd love to see it as kind of like a 3-tech where he can, really explode up the field.
We did that this recruiting cycle. We did it with him and Keon Wiley. We just flip-flopped him because we thought Keon Wiley was an edge guy. Now all of a sudden he's a linebacker. We thought Ken Talley could possibly be a linebacker. Now he's a defensive lineman, potentially defensive tackle. I agree with you. The first time I saw Ken Talley in person, I did not think it was him. He's naturally thick. And,
yeah.
He carries his weight pretty well, but still he's a big kid. Abdul Carter, what is he?
Well, that's a great question. I am going with edge or defensive end, only because I know how explosive he is. He runs really well. If he turned into an outside linebacker, that's fine. And I can see him playing there. But when I watch him play, and I've seen him play live, you just feel like, or I feel like the way he goes downhill and the way he can get to the quarterback, the way he can get around the edge, I think for me, I want that. The premium is on guys that can get to the quarterback, right? I mean, yeah, there's linebackers and all that other stuff. I mean, if you look at what the Cowboys did with Micah Parsons when they were short and they put him at D end and all of a sudden he can play there, that is a premium position. And when you're talking about Abdul Carter, who is 6'3", 6'4", a legit 235 to 240, who runs in the 4.5s, and he has the length and the athleticism and the strength to play on the edge, and you put him at 250 pounds, I don't know how you pass that up as a D coordinator, because to me, again, the premium is on getting to the quarterback, and I think he has that ability, and I don't think you'll get that as much if he's an outside linebacker.
James Franklin watching St. Francis in person the other night, I'm sure getting Jayshon Barham would make that one a lot easier of a decision to eventually slide Abdul Carter down if that's what you choose to do. All right, interesting one for you. We talked about him briefly before we came on. Caleb Artis, what is he?
Offensive lineman. I think at the end of the day, even through this cycle, there was a lot of talk about whether schools would turn him into an offensive lineman. He went with Penn State. He thinks Penn State will give him a legitimate look at defensive line. And I think they will too, because again, you want defensive linemen a little more athletic and they're tougher to find. But at the end of the day, when I watch him move, when I don't see the crazy burst that maybe you'll see with some of the other players, but I like his frame, I like his length. He's already there size-wise where he can play. And I think he's a kid that has the athleticism who can play guard, and I can see him pull. and kind of get in space and get to the second level. I think he'll play with a low center of gravity. He does that in some of his reps right now, playing with St. Francis in New York. But I think I've always, been leaning a little bit toward offensive line, and I still think that's the case from talking to a lot of people in New York City. And I know he's a Long Island St. Francis kid, but it's all kind of one and the same sometimes with those mixtures. I think for me, I think he's best as the offensive lineman.
Omari Evans, what is he?
Fast, man, legit fast. For me, he's a returner and he's a slot receiver. You always want to get that kid into space. Like, if he can catch a punt, I'd have him return punts too, just because of the speed. But that's such a specialized craft. But as a kick returner, and I know Penn State fans don't expect Penn State to give up any touchdowns or points for him to return many kicks, but kick returner and receiver. And I could see him as a guy who runs some, he takes that 4-yard cross and all of a sudden it's 30 yards. I think you put that speed outside once in a while, and all of a sudden the safety has to pay more attention to it because, again, at that speed, you can just run by the corner. He's a kid that's I know some places timed him in the 4.3s. Okay, great. Even if he's in the 4.4s, that's still pretty special. And so for me, I want that on offense, and with his size, I think he fits better on offense.
Yeah. To me, Penn State taking him where they're at with commits and that number in the class, says that speed can change some things for them. So I can see where that comes in. Final one here, Andre Roy, what is he?
Really big, really raw, and really talented. I think he's a left tackle. I think at the end of the day, because of his length and Fitz, you and I saw him, again, down in Baltimore in the spring. And I think we both came away saying, man, we didn't realize he was that good. And I saw him play early in the season, and he didn't show as much as I wanted to, I think is the best way to put it.
That's fair.
But I also think he's raw. He's wildly athletic. He's just figuring out how good he can be, and just figuring out that, hey, I've arrived on the scene. And so a lot of opponents are going to really try to attack me. And so it forces him to work hard and step up his game. And talking to Coach Masai at St. Francis, Andre has done that. But I just think, look, if he turns into a guard, that's fine. But I think he's a left tackle. He can play right tackle. I just think with that, he's got quick feet and he's got length. And, as you know, that's a pretty good starting point for a tackle. And so I think that's where he winds up staying.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the most interesting parts of this recruiting class because, as you said, we saw him in person and we're like, man, this kid, he can move. He's carrying 310, 320 pounds pretty well. But he's got no clue what he's doing. Absolutely no clue what he's doing. And I mean that in an endearing way for him, for his development.
Yeah. And that's what listen, the things we always talk about, really good high school players, and when we're trying to get them ranked, is we're looking at growth potential, right? And so you may have some kid who's 6'2". I'll give you an example that can hit home for everybody. Blake Corum, the running back at Michigan, was always a really good player at St. Vincent Pallotti. Then when he went to St. Francis, but the question was, is he maxed out physically? How much better can he get at Michigan? Well, as it appears, I was wrong. He got a lot better in Michigan, and he really showed that he can continue to develop his game, and he did that. And so that's the discussions you're having with kids. Where are they close to being physically mature and tapped out on potential, or do they have a world of potential? So you take Andre Roy and you take Malik McNeil, and they are both kids that have a world of potential. Now, the key for Penn State and the offensive line coach, Phil Troutwine, is to turn the potential. How quick can you turn it into production? Because you don't want to sit there with Malik McNeil or Andre Roy and it's 2024 and they're like, okay, now we're ready to get on the field. Or 2025, now they're ready. You want to be able to turn that around quickly. So that's what you're weighing with guys like Roy. And I think he's got a world of potential, but he's got to get there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's the line you walk with these guys, especially with the tackles, because their coordination is behind, their development is behind, the size gets there, and it's so tough to turn them to a refined product. That's why you don't see tackles play right away.
Well, it's that, but it's also like the technique that there's guys that survive that just because they're long and athletic and can move their feet at the high school level, just because they're not refined technically, but you don't have to be, because they're not facing, the defensive end at Michigan or Joey Bosa or Jason Awe or whatever. I mean, when you get to college, he's going to be playing kids that are 4 years older than him, stronger. So you have that, who have had 4 more years of technique development that he has to learn to counter. So there's a lot that really goes into it, just in terms of like, well, he was highly rated, he should play. It doesn't really work that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's offensive lineman recruiting a crapshoot anyway. I mean, you look at what you look at. This is a guy that I compared. Who was I don't remember who the question was. Javen Williams, the offensive lineman from Wyoming. Someone asked me about his body type, and I said Anton Harrison, and that brought up a story that Anton Harrison came to camp and worked out at tight end. He came to team camp, worked out at tight end, and Penn State's like, what are you doing? Like, well, we wanted to see you work out, and kind of had him down on the board a little bit because of it. And then things happened with not the Life Christian, the
Archbishop Carroll, who was that?
No, yeah, but it was the National Christian Academy kids. Aaron Parks was the guy I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden that class kind of falls apart in the offensive line, and then Anton Harrison goes and starts as a freshman at tackle at Oklahoma. I mean, it doesn't make sense sometimes.
It is. So when you said tight end, you said Anton Harrison, not Mega Barnwell.
And I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay, just checking. All right, Dohn, I think it's time to get you out of here. You got jokes, I'm sure, that they're just kind of running, echoing to no one. But thank you for joining us. It is always appreciated. I don't know if there's any parting shots you want to get in on me. I know you've been kind of light with the insults here, but anything else to share?
I'll just say, listen, I know Penn State has a big game, the stripe game, I guess, against Michigan. So just enjoy your vacation, Fitz.
The helmets. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I buried the punchline there. But we thank you for coming off of your vacation and joining us here on a Monday morning. It's always a pleasure to have Dohn. Does a phenomenal job for us, and he'll be around all this week, considering it's going to be a big recruiting weekend in Happy Valley. Brian, thanks for joining us. And for our listeners, we will catch you later this week to talk a little bit about Michigan. We'll have some guests on and things like that. But for Tyler Donahue, for Brian Dohn, this is Sean Fitz for the Lions 24/7 podcast. Thanks for joining us.